Jeremiah 25, and we'll pick it up at verse 9. 25 and 9. Okay. Go ahead and read.
Behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, said the Lord, and Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant.
See, but again, he called him his servant. We know how he served God, didn't he? You know, he wasn't serving God for trying to walk in no righteousness or nothing. He was serving him because he was doing God's bid. Whatever the Lord wanted him to do, then Nebuchadnezzar did it. Now he said, now he said, behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, said the Lord, and Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, my servant. Go ahead and read.
And will bring them against this land, and against the inhabitants thereof.
Now the land he's talking about bringing them against was talking about Jerusalem here. Right. And I'm going to bring them against this land and the inhabitants thereof. Go ahead and read on.
And against all these nations round about, and will utterly destroy them and make them an astonishment and hissing and perpetual desolation.
Go ahead.
Moreover, I will take from them the voice of mirth and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, the sound of the millstones and the light of the candle. And this whole land shall be a desolation and an astonishment, and these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years.
Go ahead, read.
And it shall come to pass, when 70 years are accomplished, that I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation, saith the Lord.
Now he said after them 70 years are over, then I'm punish the king. But the Lord is the one that raised him up, didn't he? You know, to take over all of these nations. Now the Lord said after he is finished, then I'm going to punish the king of Babylon. Go ahead and read it. Because Nebuchadnezzar wasn't no righteous. So the Lord, he's going to punish him as well. But first he used Nebuchadnezzar to punish all them other nations. Now he's going to take, now the Lord is going to punish Nebuchadnezzar. Go ahead and read on.
And the land for their iniquity, in the land of the Chaldeans, and will make it perpetual desolation.
Now, let's go. Now that's how the Lord used Nebuchadnezzar back in the days of old. Now let's go now to Revelation chapter 9. And we're going to begin reading at verse 1. Now the Lord used Babylon in the last day. Now he's going to raise him up an army in the last day. Let's go now, Revelation chapter 9. And we're going to pick it up at verse 1. We're going to get to the army that the Lord is going to raise up in the last day. But first I'm going to show you about another army here. Let's go to Revelation chapter 9. And began reading at verse 1. Revelations 9 and 1. 9 and 1. Okay, go ahead and read.
And the fifth angel sounded. And I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth. And to him was given the key of the bottomless pit.
Now we're going to find out this star is none other than the devil here. But go ahead and read on.
And he opened the bottomless pit. And there rose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit.
Now, what is this that was in that bottomless pit? That was Rome. That's who we are dealing with. We're not going through all the intricacies here, but now this is Rome that we are dealing with that was in that bottomless pit. Go ahead and read that next verse.
And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power as the scorpions of the earth have power.
So now what we are dealing with here, we are dealing with military. You know, we are dealing with an army here, and we are dealing with military equipment. But skip down and pick it up at verse 7. Go ahead and read.
And the shapes of the locusts were like horses prepared unto battle.
And look, we're dealing with battle here. You know, it said like unto horses prepared unto the battle. Go ahead and read on.
And on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men.
Now skip down and pick it up at verse 11, and we're gonna deal with this angel over the bottomless pit here. Go ahead and read on.
And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit.
And who is this angel of the bottomless pit? That is Satan. They had a king. This is Rome we're dealing with here. That's who it was in the bottomless pit. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit. Go ahead and read on.
Whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon.
Now, Abaddon means destroyer. Now, go ahead and read on.
But in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
And Apollyon, that means destroyer as well. So by whatever language you choose, he is the destroyer. But he is the angel that was over the bottomless pit. Right. Let's go look at it again. Let's go. We coming back here in a minute, but first let's go to Revelation chapter 13, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. So you'll understand that this is Satan that was over this Roman Empire here. Revelation chapter 13, and began reading at verse 1. 13, and we'll pick it up at verse 1. 13 and 1. Okay, go ahead and read.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
Now this beast that we're looking at here, this is the Roman Empire. And he said, I saw this beast coming up out of the sea, and it had 7 heads and it had 10 horns. Go ahead and read on.
And upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the names of blasphemy.
Go ahead.
And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear,
Go ahead.
and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority.
Now who is the dragon? That is the devil.
That's right.
So now who is that angel over the bottomless pit? It is the devil. That's who it is. That's who we'll look. Now this is one of the major powers here in the last days. Let's go. This is Rome that we're looking at. Let's go back to Revelation chapter 9. Back to Revelation chapter 9. This time we're going to pick it up at verse 12. Revelation chapter 9, we're going to pick it up at verse 12. 9 and 12. Now we're going to pick up the next major power, because you're going to have two. You know, you got Rome, they in the west, but you're going to have Russia, and they are in the east, and that's who we're about to read about right here. Revelation chapter 9, and we'll begin reading at verse 12. 9 and pick it up at verse 12. 9 and 12. Okay, go ahead and read.
One woe is past, and behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter.
Go ahead and read.
And the 6th angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the 6th angel, which had the trumpet, loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates.
Now we're reading here about the Euphrates River here, and we understand where the Euphrates River is. It is over there in the Middle East. In fact, it is said that that river is supposed to divide the east from the west. That is what it is considered as a division, a divide line between the east and the west. Go ahead and read on.
And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the 3rd part of men.
That's a lot of dead bodies, the 3rd part of men. That's a whole lot of dead bodies there, isn't it?
That's right.
Go ahead and read on.
And the number of the horsemen, and the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them.
Now you know what? This is the army that we're looking at.
That's right.
But this is the army of the east here. And notice what it said. It was of 200 million. That's what 200,000 is. So we're looking at an army of 200 million here. Right. That is what we're looking at. And this is Russia and her allies that we're reading about here. Go ahead and read a little bit more.
And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them having breastplates of fire, and of jacinth, and of brimstone. And the heads of the horsemen were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire, smoke, and brimstone.
Now all we're reading about here is war equipment. That's all. You know, John just describing war equipment. That is all that he's doing here, because he was looking at these things in a vision, and there was nothing known as a tank then, nor an airplane then. So what John is doing, he's using something that he's familiar with, trying to describe what he is looking at. Because Lord is showing John this stuff in a vision. So now he see this army of 200 million men. Go ahead and read on.
By these 3 was the 3rd part of men killed.
Wait a minute. He said by these 3 was a 3rd part of men killed. That's a lot of dead bodies. You understand?
That's right.
A 3rd part of men. Go ahead and read on.
By the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouths.
So now we have this army of the east here. And it is an army of 200 million. Then we got the army of the west, and we know that that is Rome, or today we know it as the European Common Market. Let's go now to Joel chapter 2, and we'll begin reading at verse 1. Joel chapter 2, and we'll begin at verse 1. So we got this eastern army, which is Russia and her allies. Then we got this